Welcome to the Joy Meets Pain podcast. I'm your host, Dorcas. As a psychotherapist who has worked with children, couples, individuals, and families for decades, I cannot tell you how many times I've heard people say, my family is the worst, or I'm too embarrassed to talk about my family, or no family is like mine. Well, guess what, listeners? All families have ishness, foolishness, happiness, shadiness, loneliness, forgiveness, hopefulness, goodness, and the list goes on. If you come from a family and are trying to navigate your family relationships, then welcome. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you all my guest for today's episode on Love Without a Price Tag, Redefining Indian Marriage Traditions. Bhati and Abhitash are a fun, loving, generous, beautiful couple I met while visiting India last year. My conversation with them will air in 2 episodes, with part 1 focusing on their marriage and part 2 on the dowry system and other global bride price practices. All right. I am so excited to talk to Bhati and Avitash, who have become friends of mine in such a short time. But honestly, yes, I think one of the things I miss the most about India is all the conversations we would have on your couch. And Bhati would pull out her beautiful albums and show me all the pictures. So yeah, this is, a reunion of sorts. But, you can introduce yourselves and, share, I guess, where in India you live, what states you're from, and how you met. So we can start with that. Bhati, do you want to go first?
Sure. So my name is Bharti, and I am from Agra. This is a city in a state called Uttar Pradesh in India. So, and I have been living in Delhi for close to 17 years now. So I moved out of my hometown when I was 18 years old, and since then I've been working in Delhi and Gurugram, which is a separate state, about 2.5 hours away from my hometown. So yeah, that's about me, and that's where I met him. So you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, so traditionally, from a heritage perspective, hail from the state of Haryana, which is in India. Obviously, my father moved out, because he was working with the Ministry of External Affairs, and that's how, I had a diverse international background. Uh, you know, my schooling was in different parts of the world, but obviously, home is home, and I guess that's always where my heart has been.
Yeah.
Uh, Eventually, got into um, BMW as a manager for handling customer escalations and complaints. And Bharti was a part of my team then. We were both differently engaged, if I may call it that way, at this stage. Seeing other people. And then obviously, I left and I had some brief connections once in a while, maybe like once in 6 months or so. And one day she asked me to help out with something at work. I was at her mom's house, and I think it's better if she tells the rest of the
You have to
story.
mention how we met, how we saw each other again.
Yeah, so she was,
So this is a funny story, and I think I'll take it from you.
yeah,
So almost about, I mean, after a year of
me
you
leaving.
leaving BMW. So one of these days, and that's the time when I was actually looking for boys to get married, and I was meeting different people. So I was dating this guy, and I was sitting with him, and that's when Avitash saw me and said that, "Hey, what are you doing here?" I said, "And what about you? What are you doing here?" So I said, I told Avitash, I said, let me just finish up with this meeting, and I'll catch up with you. So yeah, that's where it started, and The only reason I asked him to stay was so that he could drop me home. So I was being selfish.
I would
Okay, okay. Well, planning ahead, we'll call it.
I was the
Maybe.
chauffeur.
So I didn't have anything in mind, and that time I was involved with other people, and I was actually looking forward to get married. So we met, and I asked him to drop me home because I found out that he stays close by, and that's where the story started.
Okay. All right, all right. So yeah, so tell me a bit about your families. How many siblings you have, and how involved are they in your lives currently, your relationships with them?
So mine is a big one. I have a huge family. Um, I'll talk about the direct family only because the extended one is really big. I am six siblings. We have three brothers and we are three sisters. Um, they all are working and they are busy in their own lives. However, Avitash and I are really close to my family. We are more like friends because our age difference is not much. We're just 2 3 years apart, so we're very very close. We hang out and yeah.
Mm.
So that's about my family, and Abhitash's family is not as big as mine. But yeah,
Yeah, and we're very distant at this
yes.
stage. So let's just keep it at that. I'll keep mine short.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Let us talk a little bit about your marriage. What do you think makes it work so wonderfully?
Honestly, I think there are several factors. Like in India, we have society which is now undergoing tremendous change. It's dynamic, it is fast paced, it is moving towards a direction where women are now significantly more accepted in the workspace, and women's careers have become um, an absolute necessity in in the corporate metro cities. So unless someone is at a really high position, that has their own home and stuff, you need to make at least like a good $4,000 to $5,000 to be able to have only one person working, where the wife can then obviously, as traditions would follow, just be able to take care of the child, look after the home, etc., and just be in that homemaker capacity, which I think is one of the great things about Bharti, that even though she goes to work, uh, you know, um, she still comes back and she still makes time for our daughter, who's now 15 and a half months old, and is an absolute joy, of course. And you know her.
Yes, yes. I have been begging to borrow her for quite a while now.
Exactly, right. I mean, so, but to be able to do all of that, be so responsible, etc. I think it's one thing that I'm blessed to have with Bharti, and I think one of the things that you really start appreciating over time is the fact that there's someone who's more responsible than you. Because let's face it, men are idiots at the end of the day.
Oh dear.
There's no denying that, right? I mean, in the household, we are not as responsible as women are. So I think, and that's just the basis of it. It's just in the very traditional sense that I think there are just some things that are more intrinsic uh, between the sexes of how we behave. Mothers are, there's a reason why we call it Mother Nature, and it's just their nature as women, as mothers, to be able to, have that space, and they excel at it, right? So enough respect, all of those things, and then be in a very stressful career, which obviously has its own, uh, demands, needs, and so many other things. But I'll let Bharti talk about her work more.
Yeah, I think I would say apart from me being responsible, I think it's always a give and take relationship. No marriage can sustain with one person working on it. It's both of us, and we both lack at certain things, but I think we respect each other a lot as something really important, and that's also one reason I got married to Vitash, because while I was meeting other guys, I had I'd met a lot
through
of
arranged
people,
channels.
so for arranged channels. So the only thing that I wanted was that I want a guy who supports me and stand by me in all the situations, because I come from a very different, very traditional family, very orthodox family. So my upbringing has been very difficult, right? So we've seen male dominating, I'm from a male dominating family. So we've seen a lot of women suffering around me. So that's what I didn't want for myself. And that's also one reason that me and my sisters decided to step out, and we said that we don't want this for ourselves, what
Mhm.
our folks have gone through.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and that's what I found in Abhitash. He respects me, he loves me, he's always there through thick and thin. And I wouldn't say our marriage is perfect, Ocus. It still takes a lot of work and
Right.
a lot. So 1 year was really challenging.
Yeah.
There was a time that I also stepped out of the house, but Abhitash was there and he made sure, and he said that we have to work on it.
Yeah.
So he let me go, and that's what I always respect about him. He's been a wonderful husband. Sure, I am maybe better at other things, but he's there, and that's
Yeah.
what I. And I think all these things makes it work, and we are able to take care of our daughter as well. And now all we think about is her and her future. So we are all the more closer to each other now.
Yes.
And I think, as a general thumb rule, right? And I think for anyone looking for advice on, how to make it work, just remember one thing. And I think this applies to every aspect of life. When everything is all hunky dory, you will have the world around you because everybody wants to bask in, you know, just the vibrance, the light,
Yeah.
that the happiness of it all.
Yeah.
But the moment, sorrow, you know, comes to visit, or hardship comes to visit, or, when life really gives you lemons,
Yeah.
and, you're just in a really tough spot. That's
Yeah.
where you'll find that the people that were closest to you are either there or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even when it comes to your own, blood family.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
and I think it's one of the things that you really need to appreciate in life. Who's with you when times are tough.
Yeah.
And I think everybody knows that, but they just need to remember it every now and then to be able
Yeah.
to sustain your marriage. One of you is going to be stronger than the other. One of you is going to love more. One of you is going to hate more. One of you is going to fight more. One of you will always do something more. And the one that's doing it less is the one that's, a little more patient, perhaps. There's passion and there's patience. And I think that's the equilibrium that we've kind of found with each other.
Yeah.
Where, you know, when one of us is angry, the other one calms down and says, hey, you know what? It's okay. We're going to be all right. It's
Yeah.
part of life. And I
Yeah.
think one of the things that really helps you grow together as people, as partners, as individuals, and obviously, when parenthood kicks in, you just don't have it in you to ever even consider, anything else but the child's safety, the child's happiness, making sure that that child feels, for the longest time until they experience their own life, make decisions for themselves. But I think, just to feel loved is the only thing
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah, well, and Abadash, I mean, you brought up a great point about in times of darkness and sorrow, who is there? And I think this is why social media has
oh,
grown significantly in popularity because it's all about showing only the good stuff. When people are depressed and reaching out for help, nobody likes those posts. And it's very unfortunate because you would think that in this world of social media that we really are social and concerned, but we're not, So I think I do agree that who is going to be around you in times of challenge, So yeah, I do want to ask, what well, maybe let's not even ask the what's, but how. How do you all deal with disagreements, challenges between the two of you? So if you have an argument, what is your process of, resolving it?
I think mine's very simple, and I genuinely mean it. In most things, and this is Bharti's favorite number, 80% of things, she is always right. It's just me being silly. It's me being either immature or irresponsible, and I accept it. I accept it as a flaw that I share with, you know, millions of men. But it's just that, sometimes that male bravado, that male gene, testosterone, whatever you want to call it, it kicks in, and until you find, you actually get told off, actually get scolded for thinking like, uh, you know, just an insane person that isn't taking a very mature decision. And that's what Bharti typically does. She'll make me realize, you know, sometimes in a very nice, polite way, and sometimes, it does get to a very argumentative state between both of us. And, you know, you kind of sit down in separate rooms, you think to yourself. And I think the main reason for doing that is because, you know, you sometimes need to just sit down alone with yourself and reflect.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah.
it's not you being inconsiderate of the other person when you're taking those decisions, but it's just that, for a certain age of life, you've come to live on your terms. Now, being able to, come to a mutual agreement of, sharing that connection means that you need to let go of your personal and comfort zone and accept, or at least, begin to try and see the other person's perspective. It just means that, they may just have a better way of doing things that may work out for you as a collective, or you as individuals. There's lots of times when Bharti's given me constructive feedback about my working style, and her working style is amazing. It's documented, it's carefully organized, it's structured. I am more, of a people's person. I'll walk up to someone like, hey, let's go for a coffee, sit down. You want to grab a beer? Tell me what's wrong. And I'll go on a very personal note.
Yeah.
And that's how I'll get my work done. And, Bharti's is
Mhm.
more, she'll say, hey, here's what you're hired to do. This is the work that you signed up for, and this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
Right? So without
She is a Virgo,
getting,
by the way.
oh, yeah, absolutely. I think if you look up Virgo in the dictionary in India, perhaps you'll definitely see Bharti's picture on there.
Yes, yes.
I am truly blessed to have that. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the things that you need to do as a couple. When you have disagreement, when you have, especially between yourself, there is conflict exists even within yourself, right?
All right.
So
All right.
conflict that you need to own. And that's why you need to look at yourself. And that is why you need to reflect. And that is why you need to shut up and sit in a different room, just let go of your emotions at one point and then start thinking that's what it is.
Yeah. So
Maybe.
Parsi, before you jump in, my brain is running at a really fast pace, so I have to say these things, that some of the points Abhitash has made. And firstly, Abhitash, I mean, you can be my relationship coach assistant, because I mean, the number of times, I have conversations with couples about the importance of connecting with yourself and how you feel, but unfortunately, again, a lot of us use so many distractions to not feel, Okay, I'll watch TV, I'll play a video game, I'll call so and so. But if you really do take the time to sit in a different room and process what is going on, it really changes how you engage the next time around. But many of us are really afraid to feel. So I think that's one challenge. And the other challenge as well is a lot of people get into a relationship and want the relationship to be their everything. But if I lose parts of who I am as an individual, if I lose that relationship, then I'm also going to be devastated, right? So I can't go into a relationship expecting it to be my savior, right? And this is the point you're making is you're coming into this relationship as an individual. And so oftentimes you still need to remember that and nurture that side of who you are. But yeah, Bati, you can jump in. Sorry to cut you off and share
Uh,
with us, I guess, how problems are resolved, what makes your relationship work in terms of how the two of you deal with conflict.
so you were right. You can definitely have him as a coach because that's what he's been doing with me. He's being very, very patient. Considering you already know Virgo, you know how short-tempered and how impulsive we are sometimes and how impatient. So I would say that we've grown, in this relationship together. And all this did not start on day one. We've been trying to sit down and talk about things. I mean, and I don't really sit down in another room and reflect, and I can't do that. I get really impatient. Like, why are you not talking to me? How can you do this? And then he's been teaching me, okay, okay, let's just so he try and manage things with me. So he's the
Yeah,
one who's trying to resolve all the conflicts by
yeah,
sitting talking to me. And
right.
one thing I always appreciate in our relationship is ever since we've met, we talk. We talk
Yes.
you know with Naisha as well. We really do not get time for each other, but we still try, over the weekend sit and talk about our work, and we talk about everything, about our
Mm,
family, about how we feel,
mm,
about intimacy, or everything. So I
yeah,
think easier. I think talking is what makes things work and
mm,
resolve as well. Because if you stop talking to each other, if you do not express yourselves, that's when it
yeah,
gets challenging, and we face that as well.
yeah.
So I think I'm still yet to reach this stage, what Avitash is in.
I'm just kind of circling back to my previous statement that the conflict that is arising between two people is only and only because of your ego. There is nothing else.
Yeah.
And the first step to identifying, where that conflict is, to drop the ego. And that is when you will begin to try and understand how you or your actions are making the other person feel.
Mm,
And the day that you can do that, because we're all corporate slaves today. All
yes.
we do is work, 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 and that's become such a big part of our lives. And the more you grow in life, the more senior your position becomes. When you get to a C level or something else, that's where you get lesser and lesser time for yourself, for your family, for everyone else, because the expectations from you are so high that you need to deliver the moon, you know, in
Yes.
a jar of, I don't know, tiramisu, for example.
I think I'm going to interrupt. We also need to remember why we came together,
Exactly.
why
Yes.
we
Yes.
always remember, and I give it to Bitash, and I'd like to mention it here. And it's funny when people would find it funny, but he still remembers our monthly anniversary. I don't.
Wow.
Always come. He would wait for me to remember. I mean, this happened on last ninth itself. He messaged me. He said, "I'm picking you up from office," and no question asked. The moment he wrote, he's like, "There's something today that I've forgotten." And the moment I was leaving from office, I was like, "Oh, it's ninth." So I told her, I said, "Whatever month it is, happy monthly." Then he was waiting downstairs, so he does that.
So I guess to summarize the highlights of, what makes a great marriage, I mean, definitely not perfect, but a great marriage. The communication is necessary, is important. It must be consistent. Keeping each other's perspectives in mind, remembering, what makes the other happy, what brings them joy. If you have children, then focusing on the needs of the children, which is quite a struggle for many couples, I will say, and especially when there is conflict, it becomes a war between the parents, and the child, unfortunately, is triangulated in that conflict. Um, but yes, I think, you also are emphasizing the importance of friendship, having a great friendship, talking, laughing, talking about everything, So I think those are the main takeaways I have gathered. Am I missing anything that you want to add before we switch and talk about another bigger issue?
I think just you know, um, stop being an individual and think
Mhm.
about the individual.
Yes.
Drop the ego and begin to feel.
Hmm.
And with that, I think you'll just learn to embrace each other.
Yeah.
Truly, you'll
Yeah.
feel that nostalgia when you
Yes.
get that embrace.
Yeah.
You feel that much more in sync and more connected.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. I hope you found this episode informative and engaging. If you found it meaningful in some way and have comments to share, or you would like to share your family story, whether joyful or painful, please send an email to info@joymeetspain.com. Thank you for tuning in and for allowing me to spend this part of your day with you. Please like, rate, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And of course, please spread the word. Till next time, stay well and stay present.